All right, welcome back. We have another knife today. This one is packaged in a way where I'm gonna unfortunately have to open it off of the screen, so my apologies for that. But we're trying to keep the personal information exposure to a minimum. Someone asked on one of the other videos, because I didn't mention it, like, what's that cool knife that you're using to open the package? AD20.5 from Demko. The Demko AD20.5 does the job. So I'm gonna start mentioning that when I use it, because yeah, it is really good at opening packages. And it is a really cool knife. This one's just the basic Grivory with OS 10A, but for around the house use and stuff, doing the job great. It's one of those knives where, like, I just don't worry about it. Just use it. I'm very utilitarian in that way. So I'm a big fan of that when I can come across it. Man, this thing is packaged up. All right, we're gonna have to do some serious cutting here. That's fun. I wish I could show you this, because this knife just does it so well when you have to do something like this. A careful but like serious cut. That thing is just so accurate. There's a lot of people that look at average things about knives and draw conclusions about Andrew Demko's and the Demko brothers' work and what they do, but there is little things you don't know until you really use and put a knife to use. I put this thing to like some pretty serious use. You can see I've got some pretty good nastiness on here, but I'll keep it moving here. But let me just say that the little details you don't realize even just looking at the knife or comparing blade steels or whatever to some other manufacturer, speaking of Demko, man, there's just little things that they do really, really well, and I won't go into it. Maybe I'll get into them throughout the video, but I'm gonna stay focused on this knife that we're unboxing here. But let me just say, it is really impressive. So, why am I excited to get this one? I was told during my search that the AD20S, let me pull a couple out here. This is the AD20 Slim. Was only available in G10 or Shark's Foot and Drop Point during my studies and journey. But I finally got into the Demko Dynamics group, an amazing group of people over there. And lo and behold, my further study has brought to my awareness that there were early versions like this one, AD20S D2 Clip Point. And I had been looking for a clip point, and someone's like, they don't make the AD20S in a clip point. Now, if you don't know, they do make the standard large AD20 where you get the full blade stock thickness, like the big boy, in a clip point. So I just assumed that they did the AD20S in a clip point too. They also do the AD20.5 in a clip point, and they don't do it in a drop point. They do Shark's Foot and, you know, like this guy here, and in a clip point, right? So you got clip point, Shark's Foot, clip point, Shark's Foot. I assumed that they just made an extra one like a drop point, and they also did a clip point. Now, I don't know if they're still making these. I gotta do a little more study on it, honestly. However, they did at some point, and I was able to source one, and it will be part of the broader collection video I'll be doing at some point here. The thing is, I keep running into new models that I think I want to include, and what I'm realizing is that's not going to happen. I'm just going to have to talk about it, and you're going to have to listen, and you're not going to get to see every knife, unfortunately, like I was hoping to be able to bring to you. However, would you look at that? And this is a pretty cool example as well, because it's a no slot AD20S Clip Point, brand new in box. Just double checking, but a cool member on the Demko Dynamics Facebook group sold this to me. There are a few actually like this floating around in the group for sale. So if this is something that's interesting to you, and what's actually really interesting to me on this, which I hadn't seen before, is that this is a G10 MG-G10, I'm sorry, let me read through this so you kind of know how these work. Now these have actually changed in how they do the codes is what I've seen. But this is a Demko AD20S 302, MG-AD20S, Machine Ground AD20S. This is a D2 Clip Point Black G10. And I'd only seen this made in USA with foreign parts on some of the Grivory AD20S versions. So it's interesting to see one of the G10 versions early on also had, I think it was they were doing like the shark lock overseas or something like that. But this feels fantastic. As usual, action is super smooth and great. Lockup is perfect. Centering, perfect. The QA of this company is, I'm struggling to think of a company that I've seen anywhere even nearly as good. It is really good in terms of like the average consistency of the performance. There's literally one issue I've run across in all the knives I've had, and that is that some AD20S get like a little bit of, if you really whip them open hard, they'll get like a little bit of lock stick when you first get them. If you've used them a little bit, they tend to go away. Let's see if this one has it. No, it doesn't. But I've had a couple. I have a carbon one that had a little bit of it, and like a G10 one that maybe had a little bit of it, but they'll get a little bit of lock stick in some cases on the AD20S only. I've never seen it on the AD20.5. I've never seen it on a full-size AD20, I don't think. I have to double check. But that's like literally the only QA thing I've seen. I've seen like a couple other posts here and there, but in general, they just do a really damn good job. So super excited to have this one. There's a clip point no slot, shark's foot no slot, drop point slot. Do I have another one over here? What do I want to bring out here? Let's bring out a shark's foot. Shark's foot slot. How about that? Where do I have one? Probably right here. Textured titanium shark's foot slot. Boom. And this one you can see there's none of that foreign part announcement on here, or not announcement, but no, nothing about the foreign parts label or disclaimer is the right term. This is 100% made in the US. Ooh, this is for a lot of people is the ultimate. So let's get the full size AD20 out of here and keep this AD20S centric. And so now you see a shark's foot. How should we do this? Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Clip point no slot, shark's foot no slot, shark's foot slot, and drop point slot. And you're starting to see like just to get a little bit of a sense of the range, and it's been shocking to me the amount of range, the different blade steels. Like this is a 204P, that is a S45VN. This I think is an S45VN, which is this one. This is a D2. This one's a D2. There are 3V. I have a 3V. I have, what is this one right here? CPM 20CV. I have an M390. I have a crew wear. I have a LMAX. It is quite astounding. I just saw it today on Facebook. Actually, a lot of folks from the Nashville show just got some really nice knives out there. I'm super jealous. I'm trying to just be happy for them, but I can't help but be a little bit jealous. I'll be honest. But I saw some folks got a new M4. I hadn't seen a CPM M4 on the Demkos before. I think they've done some knives in that maybe, but that's not as common as some of the others that they've done. So yeah, it's really amazing, and I'm super excited to do like an all Demko video, but also just very excited to finally get my hands on an AD20S Clip Point, because I felt like it existed, and then I was told by like a guy that sold me, actually And this is bringing up a whole nother can of worms, but that sold me my, I think it was the guy that sold me my my hand ground, maybe, I don't know. Someone in one of the Demko groups, which I'm just gonna bring that thing out because I like having an excuse to bring this thing out, because it also tells you one more thing about what Demko does, which is these like hand ground, super custom knives, and they'll do some stuff on those that are totally different and not run-of-the-mill, like for instance this crazy cool scale design here. Get this off my finger. And this peanut deployment, right? There's no actual thumb stud on this one. And this Magna cut, just disgustingly cool. Disgustingly cool. Is that a hollow ground? Oh, God, it's so cool. Lined satin finish, just so disgusting. That is just such a cool knife. So they have just a very wide variety of things that they do. And then you get even the crazy, and I don't know if you've heard the story of this, I think I just mentioned it in my other video, the story of how the Timascus came along, the guy out in Taiwan that was working on his project, that was working on like the standard, you know, Grivory, whatever, all the ones that they were building out there in Taiwan. Say, hey, check this out, and showed him his own personal one, and he had made himself Timascus scales, and Demko was like, I think it was Andrew, was like, oh, well, you got to make one for me. Can we go production? And then suddenly here's this limited production, but available right now in Knife Center if you want to spend $950. I think these were originally like $1,050. This is a 3V blade steel. I think they may have done this in a few different blade steels, but again, just the guy loves to make amazing knives. This, by the way, just has this super glassy feel. Like I've very rarely, it feels kind of like a stainless steel or something. It's very glassy and cool. Not originally the style I was going for, and I don't know how cool it looks to you maybe on the video, but it's one of the knives that I really want to carry all the time. It just makes me want to have it in my pocket. Just the feel of it, and I don't know, it's like I got a knife, but like I'm not threatening, which I think is for my style, a good fit. So anyways, totally off track. It kind of speaks to the breadth of what they do and how they think of knives, and just, gosh, I was just thinking about it today when I was thinking about doing like kind of a bit of a serious cut with my bug out, and I was just like, man, I would feel a lot better with this knife in my hand. Like, those things are just so robust when you're gonna go make a big cut through something substantial. So, and that's not to knock this knife. If I'm, you know, opening up a package or whatever and just getting through some tape, that knife is way overbuilt for what that job is, right? But they've done things like carbon, both in the AD20S and the 80. I actually have a really exciting AD20S carbon coming. I have a shark's foot one, and I have a drop point inbound with M390, which I am thrilled to add to the collection. That is a very exciting one, very hard to find. So they do carbon on the grips and scales. Like, they have just done so much cool stuff. And so this clip point, I don't know that they still do this. They definitely do clip points in customs. Well, I don't know if the word is definitely, but I'm pretty sure they do clip points in customs. They definitely do it in the AD20.5. How about that? So I think what I'm going to be doing for the video, where it's kind of the all Demko video, is I'm going to take the information, I'm going to steal the information that I've learned on the Demko Dynamics group pages. They have some great posts that have very comprehensive lists of information about the different options, the different blade steels, the different prices and all that stuff, and start to just kind of, you know, they do a good job of making that available. But if you're not in that group and you don't want to be in that group for whatever reason, or you're not on Facebook, I want to try and show some of the knives and talk about that in a video. And I'm going to do a big video. It's probably going to be a long one if I had to guess. And I'm going to go through everything I have from Demko. It's now, we'll just leave it at this. It's a lot of knives. AD20.5, AD20S, AD20, Maybe I'll throw in the free reins. There's so much more out there too, but I'm more focused on the Shark Lock 82X, series of knives. That's really the focus of where I was going with this. But I have to give up. I've now invested. I'm not gonna say spent because I feel like you can usually get your money back out of these if you need to. I've invested so much money trying to put together this collection to learn it for myself, find the models that I really like, that I think are super cool. Some of the customs are so cool, but I wouldn't necessarily want them. This one, if you've watched some of my videos, you know on many levels why I love this knife. Magna cut, there's rarity. I'm a sucker for rarity. The colors are not too loud, but not subtle. The feel of it, just overall, this knife is sort of the epitome of my knife collection. I struggle to think of a knife like these are two of my favorite 5 knives, if not 2 of my favorite 3, and one of those might be my favorite knife, and the other one might be also a Demko at this point. Like there are not a lot of knives I like more than this in my collection. I really like my Rockstead Hiko 2. I of course like my I have an affinity or an affection for the tactile Rockwell Thumbstead, but not nearly on the same level of these. I do like the Devo Stout, but again, not on the same level as the Demkos. I do really like the Microtech Annex. I'll pull that guy out. This is actually a really good price comparable, size comparable knife to the Demkos. And also just a beautiful action, beautiful integral titanium one-piece handle that, if this was made in the US, like these Demko machine ground 8020S, this would probably be like $1,000 knife. It is made in China, but Microtech does an amazing job of bringing the quality of a American knife maker to a Chinese manufacturer. These two, maybe even call it like these two right here. This is a lightweight, so this would be $675 versus $450, I think, is the MSRP on this one. Very similar knives in a lot of ways. Very, very similar knives in a lot of ways. Very different in some ways, for sure. But, it's blade length, blade stock thickness, materials, thickness like this way. Obviously very different locking mechanisms. That's probably the most fundamental difference. This one has a thumb stud, this one doesn't, but that one does have a fuller, and this one has a channel fuller, if that's what you call it. Oops, totally missed it on that one. Height of blade and everything, there's a lot of interesting parallels for me, this knife and obviously those. And these aren't knives I would typically carry, but I can carry them like in pants. I wouldn't carry them in shorts. I'm also I do a lot of athletic stuff, and like if I'm gonna go in shorts and go out and do something, I can go to the dirt jump park on my bike and go clear doubles with this in my pocket and not worry if I fall it's gonna hurt a lot or I'm gonna damage it. Like this, you don't even notice this in your pocket. That, not gonna really want that in my pocket in shorts and a dirt jump bike. So anyways, obviously I've gotten way off track here, but at the end of the day, point being, I think what Demko does is phenomenal. I have had moments where I've had other knives in hand for the first time, and I'll for a moment feel like they're doing something better than what Demko's doing, and consistently day in, day out, I keep coming back to the Demkos, the Shark Lock in particular, the Shark Lock based knives for everything from fit and finish to fidgetiness to functionality to actual, just pure usability, ruggedness, reliability. carry in the pocket is very good. It's not the best of the best, but it's good. Yeah, they're just knives that I feel like are really, really at the forefront of what the industry is doing, and yet solidly have a foot back in the history of knives. And there's this nostalgic feel of like a Rambo style, like, you know, tough knife that can, you know, do hard work in a lot of the models as well. And that, you know, there's something to be said about realizing the reasons that after decades, centuries, millennium of making knives, people wound up where they did 20, 30 years ago, and not just abandoning that for the sake of doing something different. While you do something different, retaining the benefits of, you know, something that is tried and true. And I think that that is part of what's attracted me to Demko so much. So this was one of the last ones I wanted before I did my all Demko video. So I'm going to be doing that soon, going through all the different ones that I've learned. My hope is to do this, is to go through 80-20.5, 80-20S, 80-20 customs, talk about the blade steels, what I think of the blade steels that they've chosen to work with, talk about the blade shapes and the nuances and what I think of those, talk about the costs in the secondary market, primary and secondary market, and the nuances of that. Talk about the knockoffs that are starting to hit on eBay and stuff. Just saw the first one that's not even just selling for 30 bucks. Someone was trying to pop one off for $200+ on a knockoff. Me and some other folks on both the Demko and Blade Forums groups flagged that, and I think hopefully got that off of eBay. But you know, why there's companies like we, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the exact history or timing is, but you know, doing something that's very Sharklock-esque, and it's very different in its own right, and I totally appreciate that they made this Wii SNEX Vision R. I think this has its own place, and it's really a cool knife. But why others are starting to try and figure out how to, you know, do good things with this general concept of having the lock where it is here, which is solid, safe, and kind of fun. So I'm looking forward to digging in a little more. Let me throw this one here in the middle, since it was supposed to be the topic of conversation today, despite the tangent I ended up on. Yeah, we will we'll dig in more soon here into the Demko world, but excited to have this one in the collection. Thank you to the seller for getting it to me. It was like a 2-day shipping, which is awesome, which keeps me moving forward. I think within the next 7 days, I'm going to have everything that I've bought. Finally got my hands on an 80-20 titanium clip point, which in the textured scales, which is like the hardest machine ground one to get. You got to pay all the money to get it, but finally worked out a deal with one of the Demko Dynamics community members. He's had it since like July of 2020 when they first came out. It's a 3V original. Super excited to get that one unboxed, and once I've done that one, we're a go. Maybe I'll do the carbon one too, the carbon drop point, but we are 2 more videos after this, and then we're a go for the all Demko video. That was one of the last ones I needed. This was one of the last ones I needed. I actually feel like I could do it now, but I feel like that 80-20 tie is where it all really started, and when people got super hyped was when this titanium textured handle came out. The G10's awesome also, don't get me wrong, but this is so good. And I gotta say, it's way better. It's subtly, but way better. I do not like the 80-20.5. It's very abrasive by comparison. It's great functionally, but this just feels better. It's really smooth in hand. So you get the benefit of the grip without the drawbacks. Yeah, they just knocked it out of the park. This essentially has the same titanium scale on it, just modified and hand ground. But man, that with a clip point in the full blade stock thickness of the 80/20, that's like the last one I needed to do this video. And then there's going to be ones that I don't have. There's even some new ones coming out, like the 80/20I with international, and there's some international parts. I can't remember if it was like Italy or Spain or something. I don't know. They're doing something somewhere. I'm not going to get into all of that. I've realized that there's no way I can, as much as I want to make this video and kind of show everything and have everything, you reach a certain point where the prices on these knives are so much, it's like, okay, I gotta cut it off somewhere, and it'll take forever. I'll just never, there's no end to it. It seems like the Demko regime is only growing and going to be more successful in the next year. So it's like, let's talk about what's happened to now, because I think it's a really interesting history over the last 2.5 years since the 80/20s came out with the Shark Lock. Maybe it's almost been 3 years. And then we'll go into, in the future, we'll just take, iterative conversations about the Demkos. I think that's the best way to do it. And then I'll be making some of these available for sale, because I don't need all the ones that I got for this video. I'll just, be passing them back on to some of you out there, hopefully, if you're interested. So I know they're hard to come by, and it's been a journey from, eBay, Blade forums, DLT trading. There's a Demko group on Facebook. There's a Demko Dynamics group on Facebook. I've gone to like 5 or 6 different places. I've tried to get them from a bunch of other, websites that I failed miserably to get them from. And finally, sort of at that point now where I think we're ready to do this all Demko video, but got a couple more unboxings to do, and then we're ready to go do that. So about 3 videos out from the big one. So looking forward to that. I will cut this one at this point. Thanks for stopping by. If you stayed here to the end, please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.